There's a new King of Control series in town, and this time these paddles are utilizing a brand new, one-of-a-kind design layout featuring a Gen 3 double-layered foam perimeter inside of a nylon-infused aramid fiber face. This is good news for people who've been waiting for something special because the Pulse series by Pickleball Apes has arrived. To start things off, the price of each model in the Pulse series can be reduced to $180 with this channel's PBMed discount code, a price that I think is well below what they could easily sell these paddles for. This price is comparable and even cheaper in price than many Gen 2 and some Gen 1 paddles that are well behind the advancements of the paddles in this series, and as another sign of their confidence in these paddles, Pickleball Apes has continued forward their 30-day test trial period, so you can literally order one of these paddles, play with it for a whole month, and if you decide you don't like it after that point, you can return it for a full refund. Not only have these paddles found a way to somehow rock that unique purple look, but they also have some very interesting and industry-changing technology, as well as some really awesome playability features such as premier level vibration dampening and ball control. So let's get into talking about these paddles. As far as the building construction of these paddles, I have to credit Justin from Pickleball Apes for helping me work through and understand the details here because this is some really interesting and innovating stuff. I also spoke with Ivan at Pickleball Apes about this, and if we start with the face material, these paddles are utilizing what I understand to be an industry-first material weave that's composed of a nylon-infused, purple-dyed aramid fiber material they're calling the polyaramid weave with layers of carbon fiber beneath that. These materials are combined before the hardening processes and then fused together through heat. As for the Gen 3 foam component, these paddles have a two-layered perimeter of foam a lot like the Yola 3S, but they also incorporate 3 layers of a thin carbon fiber grid ring, which I've come to understand is meant to contain the foam in place and prevent a lot of the breakdown problems we see with paddles like the Mod TA15 with breakdown after the foam expansion. You can even hear the difference between these paddles and the other incredibly hot Gen 3 paddles when you hit the ball. All these new design features translate into a pretty unique feel that I don't think I've felt in another paddle to this point. It's a feel that's somewhat hard to describe because it's not like the hollow-like feel of some of the other Gen 3s and is more closely described as a full and stable feeling, but not necessarily dense like the Spartus Olympus feels, but these paddles are probably the best I've felt when it comes to vibration dampening and a nice, smooth touch. It may be surprising to hear that even though these paddles use Gen 3 construction, when it comes to playing with them, they don't over-magnify power. But these paddles utilize foam in a way that takes advantage of that Gen 3 construction in ways that cater to more players, such as less vibrations, as mentioned before, a more pleasant feel, and widened sweet spots. The Pulse series has a shape for everyone, which comes in 3 different options. The first option is the Pulse V, which is Pickleball Apes' first standard shape paddle, measuring 16 inches by 8 inches with a 5.5 inch handle. And then there's the hybrid shaped Pulse S, measuring roughly 16.3 inches by 7.5 inches and a 5.5 inch handle. And lastly, there's the extra elongated Pulse E at 17 by 7 inches and a longer 6.25 inch handle. These are all listed at 16.5 millimeters thick, but as Justin pointed out to me, when you compare these side to side other paddles listed at 16 millimeters, there really isn't a huge difference in notable thickness, though the Pulse series do seem to be just a touch more thick. Looking at some more numbers for these paddles, the Pulse S actually has a lower recorded swing weight, twist weight, balance point, and an overall quicker rating on the maneuverability scale than the original Proline Energy S, albeit by a short margin, so you might expect the new Gen 3 model to move faster in your hand, but be at a bit of a less stable expense in return. This, however, is not the case, and is a great illustration of the fact that as you move from different construction designs and paddle materials, things like twist weight can reflect the way a paddle feels during gameplay a little differently, and the same twist weight on most Gen 3 paddles usually correlates to a higher stability and sweet spot size than a twist weight of similar value on a carbon fiber paddle. All 3 of my Pulse paddles came in between 8.0 to 8.3 ounces, and the Pulse V in particular has a very large twist weight number. This is actually the highest twist weight of a stock paddle I've ever personally measured, with the previous high being the Spartus Apollo at a twist weight of 7.53. Combining that with the fact that the twist weights of most Gen 3 paddles reflect a higher level of stability and sweet spot size than their numbers may apply, this is all the more impressive. One question I frequently get asked is what paddle I think has the best sweet spot, and without a doubt and not even close, the new king of sweet spot and stability is the new Pulse V. Swing weights do, however, carry forward pretty directly, no matter the paddle construction type, with the Pulse V and Pulse S revealing swing weight numbers in a low range, and the Pulse E being in the high range, a lot like its previous extra elongated Proline Energy. Spin was great for all three of these paddles, particularly for the Pulse V and Pulse S, with the numbers all breaking into my very high range. These paddles can produce good drive speed on hotter swings, but not in the clear power paddle range by any means. In terms of playability, I felt each of these paddles had great vibration dampening and a nice feel that sort of pockets the ball on contact, and their ability to still produce good power on drives keeps them in the all-court category. But really, they just do so well with control that I feel these are the best paddles for control currently out right now. I think the Pulse V in particular is going to be a giant hit among the masses, because as a person who usually uses elongated or hybrid shaped paddles, this was probably the easiest standard / wide body shaped paddle for me to adjust to playing with, which was really no time at all. The Pulse S is my personal go-to in this series, because I like the retention of a good portion of control that the Pulse V had, but I like that little bit of extra reach. The Pulse E had the most leverage and attackability of these paddles, and was certainly more stable than its previous extra elongated Proline Energy model, but was the only one I felt of these three paddles that when I hit off-center shots it did cause the paddle to twist in my hand a little bit. In summary, I have to say that I've rarely been impressed with another paddle quite as much as I've been impressed with the paddles from the Pulse series. And I would go with the Pulse V if you want the ultimate best at control, stability, and sweet spot size, while the Pulse S has a bit more reach and leverage and is my personal favorite, and the Pulse E has the most attackability and reach, and is certainly an improvement from the previous non-Gen 3 Proline Energy, but is the least stable of the paddles in this lineup. I would definitely say though that if when you heard these were Gen 3 construction, you expected them to be big power paddles to compete with the Mods or Ripples of the world, you'd probably be disappointed here, because although these paddles are really versatile, that's just not their MO. That's my take on the new Pickleball Apes Pulse series. I hope the review was helpful, and if it was, hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you